So from whatever form you are in, maybe checking out your space, noticing if there's anything you want to move around you, and to create an opportunity to maybe notice what it might feel like to start to pay attention to your legs to begin with. And maybe taking a moment or two to kind of notice the parts of your feet or your legs that are in contact with the surfaces beneath you. You're welcome to do that through stillness or through movement. I'm just kind of scanning through you all right now to see if I can have a sense of who's practicing standing or sitting, or at least just kind of how that's divided up numbers wise. From as far as I can see, y'all are standing. So in your form, you're welcome to choose to position your feet, or to place your feet rather, as close together or as far apart as it feels helpful to you. You're welcome to determine the width of your base as it feels useful for your body in this moment. Your toes could face forward, they might face out, they might face in, and you're welcome to kind of experiment with how that might feel for your hip joints maybe. And so you're welcome to, in whatever stance you've created, to kind of experiment with what it might feel like to shift your hips from side to side. And you're welcome to spend as much time on your right or your left as it feels helpful to you. You're welcome to kind of like shift your weight towards the side to whatever sort of intensity that you're interested in creating as far as sensation goes. So it might be kind of a sway side to side, or there might be kind of like a press and a hold from side to side. You can choose. And you might go side to side, or if there's another formation of hip movement that feels interesting to you, maybe kind of like a figure eight or an infinity from side to side. There may be kind of a circular motion. And you're welcome to notice what it feels like to kind of pick that rhythm. So you're welcome to move quickly or slowly, and you're welcome to kind of create whatever pattern feels interesting to move in your hips right now, and it can kind of vary. You might notice as you move your hips that your knees or your feet start to move as well. And so you're welcome to kind of experiment there with moving, bending your knees a little bit, maybe lifting or lowering your heels from side to side. And as you move your legs and your hips, you might practice noticing what it might feel like to create some range of motion through your knees, hips, and ankles that feels kind of predictable for you right now, kind of maybe sticking with one rhythm and one range of motion. One option might be to kind of create a squat form by bending your knees and standing up. You're welcome to bend and extend to whatever depth feels available for your joints right now. So you might be bending, extending, or you might be kind of moving from side to side or around in circles. And you may change your stance. So like you're welcome to widen up your stance and experiment with those movements, or maybe narrow up your stance. And continuing to breathe at your own pace, your own timing. And maybe on the next, whatever kind of next set of breaths, gradually notice what it might feel like to create like a little bit of stillness in your form, and possibly there kind of experimenting with a pause. You're welcome to notice what muscles it feels helpful to contract with and which muscles might feel helpful to release. So you can kind of practice contracting and releasing your leg muscles, or contracting and releasing your abdominal muscles, until you might kind of notice there's a place that the level of contraction or release feels like you're kind of supporting yourself there. It's gonna be different for everybody. And you're welcome to practice standing, just kind of noticing your form from the soles of your feet to the top of your head. If helping feel the top of your head through your hand could be useful, you're welcome to test that out, kind of feel your height from the floor to the top of your head. You might pause there, or you're welcome to release your hand maybe. And at any point, you might practice kind of noticing what it feels like to find your way onto one foot at a time. And you can do that at any speed, kind of hanging out on one foot for a little while, or switching from foot to foot. If at any point you want to ally up or link up with a chair or the wall or a table, you are welcome to hold on in that way. And maybe when you find your way over onto one side, noticing what it might feel like to kind of experiment with a little bit of movement in your leg that's not touching the ground. It can always touch back down at any point, and maybe lift it off. And you can kind of experiment with your range of motion with how little or how much you want to lift the leg that's not on the floor. It might turn into a swing, maybe. It might turn into kind of a sway, open, closed. Just kind of experimenting with your range of motion in your hip and noticing what it feels like to kind of create some movement. Could be through your ankle, could be through your knee, and also a little bit of stability. Switching sides whenever your body is ready to, kind of noticing what it feels like to plant through the sole of your foot and lifting off your lifted leg at whatever point. Kind of touching back down, making contact with the floor. You might swing. You might create circles. You might create a sway, open, close. You might practice rotating your ankle a little bit. And then whenever you feel ready to, just kind of noticing what it might feel like to find your way back onto both feet. And you may take a little bit of a pause there. You might notice what it feels like to kind of add a little bit more focus potentially to your toes and to your heels. And maybe taking a couple breaths in your own way, in the form you're in. And then as you feel ready to, maybe noticing what it might feel like to move through balancing, maybe with a little bit more pause. So you might practice moving over to one foot and lifting the other knee. You might hold on to the tops of your clothes, underneath your knee, maybe in front of your shin, and kind of experimenting with what it might feel like to take a pause while on one foot. Some things you could experiment with are pressing down through your base foot and kind of experiment with what that feels like. You might also practice kind of like drawing in or releasing your leg. It can be at different heights. And then as you feel ready to, and you're transitioning to your other side and holding on to your lifted leg in whatever way feels useful to you, underneath or around the front, holding onto a table or a wall at any point. You might move your ankle. And you might also kind of practicing, I'm going to turn sideways to sort of show this. You might kind of practice getting a little bit longer in your lower back by pressing down through your heel. So you might kind of press through your heel and create a little bit of a stretch across your lower back. And then as you feel ready to, maybe finding your way towards a place that kind of feels like neutral for your body. And in whatever way, practicing connecting to your next 3 to 5 breaths, maybe through physical contact with your hands, maybe through moving in rhythm with your breath, or any other way that you'd like to connect with what it feels like to breathe in and breathe out right now. And maybe taking a moment or two to kind of recognize how you can support yourself in your body through your choices. And also as well, maybe taking some time to honor those who you know are in support of you and you are in support of them in their restoration for complex trauma. And the resistance within and against systems of oppression for their transformation, for liberation. Do, 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 do.